Yesterday, Craig Counsell made his first trip back to Milwaukee after becoming the Cubs manager, but things didn't go well for the Cubs. We'll get into that. Shōta Imanaga pitching tomorrow, not even today. Was this a good strategy for the Cubs with the way that things have gone right now for this team? Justin Steele had a great start, and that's a good sign. What about Nick Madrigal? You think his future is on this roster, or is it time to make a move from him and try to shake things up? And the Cubs are 1-5 since they sent Hollywood Pete back to the minor leagues. The roster moves have been baffling to some of you guys. We'll talk about all of that right here on the Cubs baseball channel and get you ready for the Cubs and the Brewers game too. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let's have some honest discussions about what's going on with this Cubs team. And make sure that you tell your friends about it. Get them involved. We want as many people here as possible to figure out how to get the Cubs back on track again. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. Again, great to have you here as we talk about the Cubs. And I'm at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. Anthony, a great job doing the Cubs show yesterday. And the two of us will be teaming up later this week. But it's a solo show with me. So, guys, hang with me right now. And let's get into what is going on with this team. First off, Craig Counsell made his first trip back to Milwaukee yesterday. Rousing round of boos, which you would expect for him jumping ship and going to the Cubs. Pat Murphy, though, has done an excellent job, his old bench coach. And after the 5-1 win, has Milwaukee, 4 games up on the Cubs. Cubs are in a backspin right now. Milwaukee's been pretty steady as Craig Counsell tries to find that same formula with the Cubs that he had with the Brewers, right? Turned over a pretty good franchise that he was a part of, but the front office there did a good job as well. But they played a video for him. You know, they were nice. Obviously, they didn't want him to leave, but it doesn't really seem to have made that much of a difference here early. I think we're all glad that we have Craig Counsell, but obviously right now times are tough for the Cubs after another loss, and the losses are starting to pile up. And when the Cubs were injured, they were finding a way to win. Now that they've gotten a lot of those players back, they can't hit. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is something that, you know, I haven't been on in where it's been a conversation piece that the Cubs took Shōta Imanaga, who was supposed to pitch Friday in St. Louis, and then pushed him all the way back to tomorrow. So he'll pitch on Wednesday, right? And I know a lot of you guys are going, why would you do that now? You know, the guy's been great. He's had like Fernando Venezuela type of season. And, you know, we need a win. We need a stopper. We're in the midst of a slide. He's been our best pitcher. And I guess the reason is that the Cubs want to be very careful with him. They want to have him for not just the regular season, but also the playoffs if they get there. The problem is he's got to get there first, right? But his velocity was ticking down a little bit. You don't have to have great velocity to get outs, right? But you have to have great movement. You got to make great pitches. The thing about having velocity is that the quicker that the ball gets there, when you have the type of pinpoint accuracy that Imanaga has, or, you know, up until this year with Kyle Hendricks, the harder you throw with that accuracy, the tougher it is to hit. He hides the ball well. You know, obviously he's got a bunch of pitches, but he's been kind of sticking to 2 that have worked for him. And so I guess they just felt like it's a 6-man rotation in Japan. There's been times where you might have to go 5, sometimes maybe 4, you know, really if you're in a desperate need. But baseball used to be a 4-man rotation up until, you know, the 80s probably, right? I mean, the Orioles had 4 guys win 20 games one year. And those guys would pitch like, you know, complete games. I mean, that's what they would go out there and do, but they weren't also trying to throw every pitch with, you know, max leverage and max velocity and max spin rate. You know, they would reach back and find that when they needed it. But, you know, that's not the way that the game's played right now. Everybody wants a pitcher to go out there and throw as hard as they can. And obviously, you get a lot of injuries, and you got to be concerned about that. But also at the same time, the Cubs really are going to need Imanaga. It just comes at a very bad time right now where he's not available and the team desperately needs him. Now, it was good to see Justin Steele back to doing things that Justin Steele does. And in the Cubs' loss, it was 7 innings of what we saw last year. And you kind of felt like, and I said this on the show after his last start, that we were there. I mean, we were really getting there. 93 pitches, 63 strikes, but 7 innings, scattered 3 hits with a walk and 8 strikeouts. Looked like the guy that had a chance to win a Cy Young last season. And that is good. So it's still May. And I know it feels like a desperate time right now, but Craig Counsell said that he was really good tonight, talking about Steele yesterday. And I think we saw that. And that's good news for the Cubs. So maybe he's back now after getting hit on the knee at the end of spring training. And then obviously the hamstring injury that he suffered in the first start. Looked good, dominant. The problem, though, was that the bullpen came into the game, and once again, they didn't get the job done. And there's a gaping hole right now in that bullpen when you go from what the starters are doing to what the bullpen's been doing. And the Cubs got to figure out a way to get more out of the bullpen moving forward. And I think as some of these guys come back, and Daniel Palencia is not too far away. Jordan Wicks isn't that far away. As these guys keep moving forward, that's going to give the Cubs more depth, because you're going to be able to throw another guy in there that has maybe a fresh arm that is ready to get out there and get the job done. And, that's one problem that they have. The other problem that they have is that they're just not hitting. And there's a lot of reasons why they're not hitting. But the bottom line is that they're not hitting up and down the lineup. It's just, you get a couple of hits and then somebody strikes out, that no one is stepping up to be that guy to drive in runs. You're just not getting any RBI production from Seiya Suzuki, from Cody Bellinger, the guys that are in the lineup there where you expect them to get the job done. Christopher Morel hasn't looked good to me. His batting average is now under 198 since he fouled that ball off of his foot and then got hit by a pitch the next day. So he may be playing hurt. He was obviously the DH. They're trying to get him healthy, but keep him in the lineup. Dansby Swanson's hitting .213. Ian Happ back to an 0 for yesterday. And then there's Nick Madrigal, who is at third base, 0 for 3 on one hand. And then, the batting average for him is .224. And on top of that, he gets the ground ball. He can't make the play. And, don't give me the okay, well, it was hit this hard. In the big leagues, you got to make that play. And I know it goes down as a hit, but that's why he's in the game, is to make those plays. I'm trying to figure out kind of what he does. Is he the backup third baseman for Christopher Morel that only plays when Morel is late in games because his bat isn't any good? He's a contact hitter, and I always like that. But the problem is it's soft contact, and he hits into too many double plays. And I just look at him and think, he's an expendable piece. The Cubs have to find energy, and they're not getting it with the guys coming off the bench right now. And it feels like they're trying desperately to hold on to him and Patrick Wisdom and, okay, well, we're going to keep these guys. But the bottom line is that the young players make a difference because they bring energy to the clubhouse. The Cubs made the really weird roster moves. First off, when Nico was injured, instead of bringing up Luis Vazquez and finding a place for him to play shortstop, they rolled with Madrigal and Masterboni, and then that kind of started a lot of the non-hitting. Now, it's not their faults, but they're just not good hitters, either one of those guys. So then you didn't put up Luis Vazquez, and then, at the end of it, you get Nico and Dansby Swanson back, but you bring up Vazquez to sit on the bench. So we don't even know what the guy can do. Maybe he can play third base and go 0 for 3, but he'll catch that ground ball, probably because he's a better defender. You got rid of Pete Crow Armstrong, which I said don't do. And the reason why is that maybe he's not going to get at bats every day, but he's also in these close games when your offense isn't scoring. He's going to be able to make some plays with his speed. Maybe he steals third base. Maybe he makes a great catch in the outfield. He does something to help you win that you don't have now. So you're missing that spark, the spark that those young guys bring to the table. And that brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. Is it time for some kind of shakeup? Could be the lineup. What could you do to the lineup to shake things up? The roster. We just talked about it. Is there a shakeup that needs to be made in the roster, or maybe the coaching staff? When the entire team isn't hitting, there's got to be someone that's held accountable. And this has gone on now for a while, where there just isn't anyone that's reliable in the lineup to do anything. So those are some questions that the Cubs have to ask, because they're dropping really quick. And it's now you can't blame it on the injuries because all the guys are back. So they played better when they were relying on Pete Crow Armstrong and Mike Tauchman than they are with Ian Happ, who's, hit a couple of home runs the other day, but hasn't done anything really productively. Cody Bellinger hitting the ball hard. I feel like he's close to getting back, but it's a lot of atom balls. Seiya Suzuki hitting for singles, but not for home runs. This team relies on home runs. They're not hitting any of those right now. And maybe they're pressing a lot too. Dansby Swanson is just not that good of a hitter this year. And, and he's had the knee injury. He came back from that. Just doesn't have the same. He's just not the same player right now than he was a year ago. Honestly, I look at the lineup and I feel like the only guy that's really the same to me is Nico Horner. I feel like everybody else has had maybe some stretches where they've played well, but somebody's got to do something here. And somebody's got to carry this team. And you hope that maybe it's Morel, but if his foot's hurting, and I really do think that something's going on there with him, that maybe he's not capable of that, and it's going to take somebody else to lead these guys. But the losing right now is really starting to stack up. And you look at the standings, and they're falling back fast. And I know that it's only May, and we saw how this team got things turned around last year. But, man, I mean, this has been, now over 2 weeks since that Braves series in Atlanta, where the Cubs have just been not good, not good. They've got 3 more games against Milwaukee. They always seem to play the Brewers. Hopefully tonight's the night that they get things going. But if I'm looking at this, I'm saying that there's got to be something that you can do to get things moving in the right direction again, because I'm losing patience right now with the lack of production at the plate. Cubs and Brewers in Milwaukee, 6:40 Central Time, and it is Ben Brown getting the start. He's been really good in this role, 1-1 record and a 3.20 ERA against one of the tough pitchers that the Cubs seem to always have trouble with, Freddy Peralta, 3-3 with a 3.81 ERA. Get in the comments section and tell me what you guys think. Am I crazy for thinking that there needs to be some kind of a shakeup here? Something's got to be done to do something. I mean, maybe it's the roster. Maybe it's, and who knows, maybe by the time this video is watched by everyone, something has happened, because I'd have a lot of sleepless nights if I saw my team playing like these guys right now. A lot of them. It's just not up to the standard that you have to win. And we saw last year that the Cubs ended up not making the playoffs because of the way that they played early in the season. When they played great late in the season, they couldn't overcome that record that killed them. So got to find some wins, and they got to find them right now. All right, get in the comments section. Tell me what you guys think. Thank you for hanging out. If something breaks, we'll jump on with that news and give you our thoughts on it. Go Cubs, and we'll talk to you again really soon.